Hello grade 9s, my name is Natasha Barton and today I would like to welcome you to this video in which we will be factorizing trinomials. This is one of two videos. Specifically in part 1, which is this video, we will look at trinomials that contain a positive constant. In the next video, part 2, we will look at trinomials that contain a negative constant. Now, very important to note, grade 9s, is that the methods that I will be using in both of these videos are mostly only useful in grade 9. When you get to grade 10, you will find that the first term does not always have a coefficient of 1, and you will therefore have to use other methods to factorize those trinomials. So please be sure to pay close attention to your teacher when you get to grade 10. Let's hop into the first problem. The first problem says, factorize a squared plus 6a plus 5. So we always start off by looking for a highest common factor. But fortunately, there's no highest common factor here, so we can go ahead and start to factorize the trinomial. We start off by writing out two sets of brackets. Then we take a look at the first term in this trinomial, which is a squared. What are factors of a squared that you can multiply together to get a squared? In this case, those factors are a. If you say a multiplied by a, you will get a squared. And we therefore write down a as the first term in each set of brackets. Now comes the tricky, more exciting part of factorizing trinomials. We need to decide what to write down as the second term in each set of brackets. And it's not as easy to do here as it is for the difference of two squares. That's what makes it so exciting. So let's start off by deciding on which signs we're going to use. I'm going to break it down to that point because I find it makes it easier to understand. So we take a look at the last term. Notice that that last term is positive 5. Now, how do you get a positive? You can get a positive by multiplying a positive and a positive, or by multiplying a negative and a negative. So therefore, since the last term in this trinomial is positive, we know that the sign contained in the brackets must be exactly the same. Either both must be positive or both must be negative. The question is, which sign should we use? To decide on that, we take a look at the second term, which is positive 6a. The positive there tells us that both of the brackets will contain a positive sign. So we can go ahead and write that down. If that second term had a negative sign, then both of the brackets would contain a negative sign, provided that the last term, of course, is positive. Now we need to decide on factors of 5, which when multiplied together will give us a 5, but when added together will produce that positive 6 on the a in the second term. Fortunately, 5 is a prime number, so its factors are only 5 and 1. Now notice when I wrote 5 and 1 down, this is my rough work on the side. Notice that I put a positive sign on each one of these factors. The reason I did so is because contained inside of the brackets we have positive signs. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take these factors, which when multiplied together gives us positive 5. We're going to take them and we are now going to add them together to see what we get. We say positive 5 plus positive 1, and we end up with a positive 6. That is exactly what we're looking for because the coefficient on the second term is positive 6. So we write down inside of our brackets a 5 and a 1, and in doing so, we have factorized completely. But remember, you can always test your answer to see if you have obtained the correct answer. To factorize is basically, in some sense, the opposite of simplifying. So here we can simplify what we have obtained by applying FOIL. That is first, outer, inner, last. We multiply the terms and we get a squared plus a plus 5a plus 5. Notice that positive a plus 5a are like terms, so we can add them together and we then get a squared plus 6a plus 5. That a squared plus 6a plus 5 is exactly the same as the expression we were given in the problem. And since it is exactly the same, grade 9s, we know that we have factorized successfully. The second and last problem contained in this video says, factorize y squared minus 10y plus 9. Now we do not have any highest common factor here, and we do have a trinomial, so we can start off by writing out the two sets of brackets. The first term in this expression is y squared. And how do we get y squared? We get y squared by saying y multiplied by y. And therefore, the first term in each set of these brackets is y. Now we need to decide on which signs we're going to use inside of these brackets. So as in the previous problem, we look at the last term. We see what sign is on that last term. Here we have a positive 9. And since it is positive, we know that the signs are going to be exactly the same. That means they will either both be positive or they will both be negative. Now, to decide whether they will both be positive or both be negative, we take a look at that second term, negative 10y. That negative tells us something special, something very important. It tells us that both of the signs will be negative signs. And therefore, in each set of brackets, we go ahead and we write out negative signs. Now that we've done this, we can look for factors of 9, which when added together will produce that negative 10, the coefficient on the second term. Now we can obtain 9 by multiplying 9 with 1 or saying 3 times 3. But notice that when I wrote out these sets of factors, I put negative signs in front of them. Can you guess why I put negative signs in front of them? Well, the reason is because we chose negative signs in our brackets. So we put a negative on each one of these factors. Because when we add these factors together, we need to produce that negative 10, the coefficient on the second term. Now we need to test which set of these factors is going to work when we factorize the given expression. Let's take a look at the last set, the negative 3 and negative 3. If we add these two numbers together, we end up with negative 6. And negative 6 is definitely not the coefficient on the second term. Therefore, this set of factors is not going to work. We can now take a look at the other set of factors, negative 9 minus 1. And that does produce the negative 10. So based on that, we write a 9 and a 1 in the set of brackets, as you can see displayed to your screen. The order here does not matter because we have negative signs in both sets of brackets. Now we have completed the factorization, but remember we can always test to see if we have done this correctly. And to do so, we use FOIL. When you apply FOIL, you end up with y squared minus y minus 9y plus 9. Can you see that when we applied FOIL and we multiplied the first terms, we ended up with y squared? When we multiplied the last terms in each set of brackets, we end up with that positive 9 that you find in the original expression. Now, if you take a look at the two terms at the center, you will realize that they are like terms. So we can add like terms together, and here we end up with negative 10y. And if you look at that very carefully, you will notice that the expression we obtained when we simplified is exactly the same as the expression that we were told to factorize. And what this means is that we have factorized correctly. Grade 9s, this brings us to the end of this video. Please make sure that you watch the next video. In the next video, in which we factorize trinomials, the last term, the coefficient, the constant will have a negative sign, which means that the method will be slightly different. Also remember to download the worksheet and memo from the Junior Techie website, because if you practice, you will make progress and things will get better and better. I wish you all the best for the week ahead. Good luck, grade 9s.